Today I'm going to show you how I and many of our team use SUI with SUI pools to take advantage in times like this when the market isn't playing ball but either going sideways or down. And my promise today, what you're going to learn is if you have SUI or if you're in the SUI ecosystem with different coins, you can put them to work instead of them sitting idle in your wallet doing nothing, being that hodl investor. So I've got a whole plan, a whole strategy here on screen, and $1,000 per month. I'm going to show you how you can do that if you do have SUI and you do want to monetize it in times like this when, if we look at SUI right now, it's taking a beating. It's back below $2. You know, just recently, start of the year, you were almost at 3x from that, almost $5.20, $5.30. So it's more than 50% down. So the good news about this is if you can understand how to do this and you want to do this, of course, you can take this to other coins, which we've shown you many times before. But basically, the whole goal is to get cheaper SUI, right? Because if you have coins and you have SUI, it's a lot better DCing in for free at $2 when you DCA at $5, right? Because if you were just to take normal money and DCA at $5, it's going to cost you more than double the amount to get as many SUI. Because again, the goal isn't the dollar value. The goal is to get more SUI for a better bull run. Okay, super important. So let's break this down. There's 3 ways to play this that we always say, and this is what I always say to guys in our community, right? There's 3 ways you can monetize a pool and really how you want to take profits in a pool. Way number 1 is, of course, you have your SUI, right? If you don't have any SUI, I don't know why you're watching a video on SUI, but again, you could replace this to Solana, XRP, Ethereum, etc. It doesn't really matter, but you know, hopefully you're here for looking at SUI. So once you have a SUI pool, which I am going to show you how to do, so don't worry about that. I'm not going to hold any curtains behind you here. Option number 1, which I recommend, really like this option, is once you have a SUI pool, you stack and compound. E.g., you bought SUI for a reason, right? There's no reason why you're watching this video if you don't have SUI. Maybe you're looking at SUI, but you want to accumulate more SUI because you believe it's going to probably do better than Bitcoin in terms of returns, like it should do. And it's definitely going to do better, even though in the short term right now, than the dollar value. Your whole goal is to get more SUI to sell for a better 25, 26, whenever that bull run peaks. And hopefully SUI is going to be around for the long term, but obviously in the bear market, it's going to take a big beating, but that's the whole goal. E.g., if you have 100 SUI and your goal is to get more SUI. So again, you have SUI and your goal is to print little SUIs to get more SUI, and then you compound that back in the pool, right? Because if you have 100 SUI, then you have 110 next week, whatever the maths would be when we look at the APYs, etc. 110 SUI is going to print you more than 10 SUI, right? Because you have more dollar value in. So again, give you a little cheat code here. Jesse, back in November 24, he was doing this back in the day of 2024, right? So he was doing this for so long, then he swapped to his Solana pool once he made his profits on SUI. And you can see here he was doing 30K a month on SUI. Now, I think he had about $85,000, so it's a lot of money, don't get me wrong. But, you know, again, if you had 8.5K, you would, you know, do the maths on that to get about 3K per month at the current yield back then. And his whole goal was to get more SUI. And yeah, he was doing more than $1,000 a day in SUI. But the whole point for him was getting loads of SUI because he was accumulating SUI, like I said, back in November kind of times when SUI was like $1. Then it 5x'd. So the 30K almost became 150K per month. Pretty crazy, right? And the whole goal again was to get more SUI. And once he was done with that, he then scaled this into Solana because SUI went up too much and he came out of range, but he already banked a bunch of SUI anyways. And then he scaled this into Solana USDC. Again, you can see here in the last 24 hours, it's made over $141,000 for everybody in the pool. That's not just obviously Jesse, but you get the point. And then what we always like to say is what you can do after this. He took free bets. That 1K a day on SUI he was making, he then took 1 to 2 bets on other coins, right? He bet on this Asteria coin, and you can see here he's up $40,000. And don't get me wrong, he made some bad bets where he put 1K in a meme coin and it didn't do anything. But if you make a SUI pool that gets you to 1K per day, it's not going to be for everybody. We're trying to do 1K per month, but 1K per day on the big players like Jesse back in the day, you make 40K, you can then go and take 40K shitcoin positions and maybe 1 or 2 will play out, but you're still always going to be profitable. Just keep that in mind. The second way is to scale to other coins that you like and keep this flywheel spinning. So again, option number 1 is great, recommended. Option number 2 is, let's say you have SUI and USD or whatever, etc. Then like Jesse, he went into a Solana pool. You could also look at doing a Bitcoin pool. You could also look at doing an XRP and Ethereum pool, which a lot of our guys are doing. So again, your little SUI flywheel here, this scales into other more coins, and then you get 2 pools, 2 little real estate properties, for example, further paying you more coins that you like. The third option, which I don't really recommend, especially times like this, but you could do if you want, if you have bills to pay for, is you can simply use, for example, Jesse's example, they're making 1K per day. He could easily have took those SUI coins, sold them, and lived a fucking amazing life, pretty much, whatever he wanted. So if you have house and bills, transportation, food, personal insurance, like all the basic shit that you have with kids, with everything in your life, you could also use that to sell, okay, to buy real stuff. And again, I think that's the better option down the line if we do get a bull market, but that is what you could also do. And the difference here with staking is you have full control. There's no lockups. You can decide when to get in, when to get out, in a click of a button if your whole thesis changed on SUI. If you don't like SUI tomorrow, you could just leave. If you're staking SUI for like some of these platforms 6 months, you can't leave for 6 months. That's the difference. So let's get into the most important thing, is how you can make over 1K per month yield farming SUI on a DeFi Cashflow machine. So the first step, what I would want to do is look at SUI and how it's reacting to the market dip, okay? Because again, you probably are watching this video because you have SUI, and we don't really need to talk about this too much because you believe in SUI anyways. So a lot of people should get excited about $2 SUI compared to getting excited about $5 SUI, because you have a 100% gain plus a little bit more to back to previous all-time highs, let alone probably the bull run of SUI, which could be $7, $8, maybe $10 I've seen online. That's not the point. The whole point is to get more SUI for your SUI positions. And then what you want to do is, with most SUI pools, you have to compare it against another asset. You can't just go and stake SUI against SUI or get yield on SUI against SUI. You have to look at against USDC, which Jesse was doing, or you can go asset to asset. Because again, chances are if you're looking to monetize SUI, you already hold it and you probably have some other bags in the SUI ecosystem or just a stablecoin that you can also do. So short term, we don't really mind if SUI bleeds, right? In fact, it's actually good because we accumulate more SUI for cheaper if you can stay in range, right? That's the most important part. So let's talk about pools. Again, very, very simple. You can come to platforms like Turbo Finance. Let me just refresh this so we get the current APYs, which I think is super, super important. Again, there's a lot of stuff here that you might get swayed by. There's a lot of shit coins here. Like, I don't want to say, I don't know what IKEA is, right? If you have IKEA and USDC, okay, monetize this, but chances are you've never heard of IKEA. Maybe you have, but this is paying a stupid amount per yield. But again, super basic. We'll start and then we'll get a little bit more riskier with asset to asset, although I think asset to asset is a better trend. So what you always want to do is you want to go custom, right? You can see this custom range is given 831%. That's pretty crazy. That's like 70% per month. Now, problem with this is, in my opinion, you have a 10% range. So if SUI goes to like, $2.02, you're going to be out of range, which again is going against the thesis of, making money on SUI, because if you have a little real estate property, your goal is to put a tenant in there. If you come out of range, you lose that tenant. You don't lose the coins, etc. You're sold to the other asset. But again, the whole goal on pools is to set a wide enough range. We always tell our guys in our private community to set it wide and let it fly, if that makes sense. So this is not a range I would currently do. If I was looking at range, what I would do is I would come on TradingView and I would see the kind of lows here of maybe $1.60, which looks pretty reasonable. So what I would do is I would just see if it makes sense, $1.60. You can see the highs here, which was basically $5.20, give or take. So I would come up to here and I would put that $5.20. This is a super wide range. You can see the estimated APR is about 8% per month. If you wanted to be a little bit more cute on this and you didn't think SUI was going to bleed as much, you could go $1.90 and you can maybe go high as $4.50. Again, this ticks the box of the 6 to 12% per month. You're getting, give or take, 8-9% per month, which is pretty crazy. That's option number one. Again, I'm not telling you what to do, but that's just one option you could do against SUI USDC. The other option, which some of our guys in our private community like to do, is they stack this against Walrus. So what I could come down here is I could go Walrus. If you don't know, Walrus is it's not a meme coin, that's for sure, but it's a coin that people, like to do with SUI because it's a strong asset, although the chart is kind of bleeding a little bit right now, but a lot of guys believe in Walrus and it's a great asset to get yield on. So again, asset to asset pools are great because you get to accumulate more coins you believe in. If you don't have Walrus, you never heard of Walrus, I wouldn't recommend you do this, but let's pretend you did have Walrus, like some of our guys in our community, and they have SUI. It's like, this is kind of putting the USDC pool on steroids because they believe in both these assets and they can earn double the fees because they probably think Walrus is going to do well. So again, you do the same kind of thing. You're going to get paid a lot more on this one, but I would maybe set it a little bit wider. But you can really see here, if I go super wide, I'm still like, how much would I have to set this wide to on this example to make more than 10% per month? You can see here, I've got a range of 47 plus 40, give or take. That's 87% wide, which is super effing wide, which is making more than 10% per month. Pretty effing crazy what you can do, and that is your option to make 1K per month. So the actual maths of this, if you have 10K in a SUI USDC pool and you're making 10% per month, that would be your $1,000 per month. If you have 50K or 80K like Jesse had, you would make currently right now 8 to 10K per month in a USDC pool. It's not paying as good as it used to, but again, it goes up and down. The Walrus pool, you wouldn't need as much, but again, you're taking a risk on Walrus, but it's not really a risk if you have the asset anyways. So hopefully that was value and how you make over $1,000 per month. And even if you don't have 10K in SUI and USDC, well, if you've got $5,000, $2,000, you make 200, 300 bucks a month. And again, if you're compounding this every single month, you're going to make more. And the whole goal is to get more coins anyways that you believe in for the bull run. So hopefully that was valuable. Hopefully that was good enough for you to understand if you want to monetize SUI, and drop in the comments below if you want to show how to do this on Solana, XRP, Ethereum. I'll make custom videos on them as well. Peace and take care. Hopefully you enjoyed.